Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
The understanding of the transmutation of the fields of the universe will become the new occupation of man. In a way, up to now, we looked into the skies to see the UFO. Mankind will look into the skies with the eye of the soul, not with the eye of the man. And universe and unicos is oyster. You got to understand that with a new understanding of the fields of the universe in motion, what we call energy, fields of the universe in the uniformity of the motion we call plasma, now has to be understood. Now has to be integrated into the structure of what we call life of the man in the space. We need to bring this change in, as now mankind has matured enough in numbers to be able to bring that burden of the change for the rest. You'll be amazed in the next few weeks and months how the drug traffickers will dump and try to make the dogs and the cats addict because they can't reach their bosses. And you do the same with your cat and dog, but just buy them ahead and put them on the line the hours that is transmitted. And we have set our system that there is no hacking. Now you have to understand how to bring the two fields of your soul, of physicality, you will call the spirit, and the soul of the man, to work together. That does not need the brain cell, but it works without it, the way you shall do when you become the passengers of the universe, as your brain in this amino acid cannot exist. We don't have a brain between the earth and the sun. It's got to be part of the knowledge of man in the space that sooner or later mankind will come to understand that the totality of the knowledge shared belongs not only to man. And is the right of every citizen of this planet. And it's the right of all of us to have access to it. We don't make a game of it, we make a life of it. Keshe Foundation is set to bring that change to technology, and we will have many enemies. Those who want us not to be there, and how they can bring that condition for them not to be. Try to understand what the emotion is. Try to understand how you create that emotion. Try to understand in what condition of physicality you create the strength with the interaction of the field of the soul that gives you that emotion. And then go to your soul and create the same field of strength and interaction with the soul of physicality creates the same emotion. Then if you become mature to this, then it doesn't matter if the soul is the protector of the physicality or the physicality is protector of the soul. They work in a synchronized manner because they are both aware of everything. When you work in that strength, all the other souls and physicalities work on the same strength, then man shall not lie, man shall not cheat, man shall not kill, because I'm hungry, I need fields, and I'm given fields. It's got to be understood by majority of the people. And gradually, but all from the point of the first education, what it means to live with the soul, and what it means the existence of the spirit, or the dimension of physicality. Our children will be educated to the knowledge of the universe from birth, the way they inherited the exposome and became paralyzed and become all the diseases they caught. It's just the energy and emotion which has brought that change. So the same shall be when a man understands this as a childhood, within the father's and mother's energy fields that has no X chromosome or Y. When the children of the man are created from the fields of the soul of the man, man shall bring no imperfect child to this world. That time has come. And that time is amongst us. And it's the time for us to bring it. In a coming time, in a very, very short time, as we are working in the background and development of technologies, as our team have to understand it, there'll be no room for vaccination. We transfer the energy of what we call the virus, which your body of dimension of physicality could be a virus on this planet, but on another planet or position in the universe is your food, to understand the transmutation from position to position. So you do come to the point that if you want to have a measles protection, you put your child this channel, this time allows this to be received as an energy. There'll be no ADHD, there will be no autism because of the mixture of the viruses and the injections of fake ways they do deliberately to them. Now, gradually, your eyes opening up, the capability and the possibilities which is now is open to mankind. You go on channel 24 and you can have as much apple as you like, but you won't pull an apple, you won't kill an apple. You want to have a lamb, you go on channel 26, you get to taste the food and everything of it, and you don't need to slaughter an animal. Now you understand how extensive this will touch you, and how satellites are needed, because the electronic satellites have a limitation of physicality. We need the soul satellite, which is of the same and transmute the same and is there to give and to exist. I made man in the image of myself. It Is our creator ADHD or is he a drug addict? None. And so should be the man. Now the man has the mind. And this is the cornerstones of the teaching. This is the cornerstones of understanding the embodiment of the cosmic rays, the soul, the ganses, and everything else which goes with it. What will be the next step for you to understand the strength of the cosmic rays? Which one you need, which one you don't need. How do you attract it to yourself and how you reject some because you don't need it even though they're on target. Very soon once we start these systems to go public for you to tap into, you will tell us how you feel. You will tell us, today I didn't eat, not interested. Because today I receive what I need as energy through all the channels which is set up by Keshe Foundation. We govern the planet, not pieces of land. We govern through the soul and technology and knowledge, not by the gun policy and whatever sits with it. We need your support to be able to bring that change scientifically, correctly, and with the process and understanding of the whole lot, that we do not bring the change by wars, we bring change by love and creation of new country. I hope you understand what's on the table today and what is the part of the teaching. The main topic and the main objective of today is we do not need intermediaries. And nobody can protect the right of the Creator when themselves are abusers of the name of the Creator in the name of Ayatollah and the rest of it. I hope you understood the teaching of today. It has come to an end and you understand scientifically why to the abuse of the man by the religion. Unless you enjoy an intermediary because you still think I haven't found either. So I double in weaknesses of my own lack of understanding. Look to understand, try to find out the knowledge, and at the same time try to be precise, that you don't need another intermediary. You understand the knowledge that there is no need for intermediary anywhere in the universe. Always said, my message hasn't changed. It's for you to understand and mature to. When I said to the professors at Jeddah University in early 2012-13, when they wanted to send a student to the KF SSI, in which direction do you get your student to pray and bend when it's traveling the span of the universe and the earth is rotating and they're upside down and they're in different part of the universe which rotates itself? Where do you find your God to pray to unless your God is within you? Understanding the conduct. The message has not changed. And the technology and the knowledge has not changed. We just explain more of it that you understand it more freely.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 486th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, May 18th, 2023. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the public teachings in English. My name's Rick Crammond and I'll be host today. And we are hosting Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, who, as per usual, in these weekly series of workshops, will be presenting today. Mr. Keshe, are you ready to begin today's teaching and knowledge of the universe?
Yes. Good morning, good day to you as usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of knowledge seekers programs from Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. As usual, we welcome you back, and hopefully, as usual, we learn a little bit and we add a little bit to the knowledge of understanding our own creation. Today, if you're a Christian, is a special day. Today is Ascension of Christ. Today is when it was said that he left and he's wherever he's gone to or where it'll be going to. I asked Rick to prepare or show us what it means in the world of Christianity by the word of ascension. If we can understand the terminology of it, maybe we can add to it and understand it more, and then to find out how the word has been abused by clergy. Would you like to read it, please? What it means, how it's interpreted.
Okay, from our handy Wikipedia, it's called the Feast of the Ascension. And so from Wikipedia, it says the solemnity of the Ascension of Jesus Christ is also called Ascension Day, Ascension Thursday, or sometimes Holy Thursday. It commemorates the Christian belief of the bodily ascension of Jesus into heaven. It is one of the ecumenical, shared by multiple denominations, feasts of Christian churches, ranking with the feasts of the Passion and the Pentecost. Following the account of Acts 1:3, that the risen Jesus appeared for 40 days prior to his ascension, Ascension Day is traditionally celebrated on a Thursday, the 40th day of Easter, although some Christian denominations have moved the observance to the following Sunday, sometimes called Ascension Sunday. The day of observance varies by ecclesiastical province in many Christian denominations, as with Methodists and Catholics, for example. Ascension Tide refers to the 10-day period between the Feast of the Ascension and the Feast of the Pentecost. The Sunday within that period may be referred to as the seventh Sunday of Easter or the Sunday in Ascension Tide. It mentions in the history, the observance of this feast is of great antiquity. Eusebius seems to hint at the celebration of it in the 4th century. At the beginning of the 5th century, Augustine of Hippo says that it is of apostolic origin, and he speaks of it in a way that shows it was the universal observance of the Catholic Church long before his time. Frequent mention of it is made in the writings of John Chrysostom, Gregory of Nicaea, and the Constitution of the Apostles. The pilgrimage of Aetheria speaks of the vigil of this feast and of the feast itself, as they were kept in the church built over the grotto in Bethlehem, in which Christ is traditionally regarded as having been born. It may be that prior to the 5th century, the event narrated in the Gospels was commemorated in conjunction with the Feast of Easter or Pentecost. Some believe that the much disputed 43rd decree of the Synod of Elvira condemning the practice of observing the feast on the 40th day after Easter and neglecting to keep Pentecost on the 50th day implies that the proper usage of the time was to commemorate the Ascension along with Pentecost. Representations of the mystery are found in diptychs and frescoes dating as early as the 5th century. Hymns for this feast are found in the Gregorian chant book of Jerusalem, which contains material composed during the 5th century.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We see even the ascension of a prophet has its own disputes. Man cannot agree on their own prophet when the soul of the Christ ascended. But what does ascension mean? The first meaning of it came in the first few lines, if you go back to it. It says, today, when the soul of Christ, more or less, went to heaven. There's a very big question mark with the present knowledge and the technology we have, and understanding of the work of the soul, understanding the work of the universe. And that's the big question. Where is heaven? Is there a heaven? Or is the heaven is for all of us? When we die, we all ascend. When we die, we all have a soul which is freed from the shackles of physicality, and it'll take its position according to its strength somewhere in the universe, as it does. As a beginning, as a starter, maybe as a small planet, if it's gathered enough, that in the explosion of the time and its place, will create its own dominion in the first instant. So, first of all, does ascension has any more meaning in the knowledge that we have? Or do we all ascend at the point of separation? And the second point is the heaven. Where does this place is? Does it exist? Or is that freedom which is heavenly from the shackles of physicality? In so many ways, once we become knowledgeable in the knowledge of the creation, all of these rhetorics become meaningless. So when a man dies, where does his soul go? Heaven must be a very, very large place. And according to the other side, the hell must be bigger because we are all sinners. Or does it mean that the body of the man, in separating from the soul of the man, allows the man to take position according to his conduct and what has gathered during the cycle of the life on this planet? How many lives have we consumed? And how many lives have we taken to add to it? Are we a collector of different souls of the seeds, the animals, the flowers, and everything else that during the lifespan on this planet we have collected? Now it comes to us to put facts, to understand the truth about ascension. And is it exclusivity of those who some try to promote, or is it collective conduct of the soul of the man after departure from the dimension of physicality of the man? Now that you know that you can travel, and you have the opportunity to travel from, let's say, New York to Tehran, to the dimension of envelope, the soul of the man, and leave the physicality within the soul, what do we call this? Is it ascension to Tehran? Or do we transmute to Tehran? because the soul has traveled. Do we create a new terminology on the basis of the past false belief in religion say so? Does the ascension has any meaning with a new understanding of the creation? When you decide to travel to Mars and to another galaxy through the dimension of the interaction of the soul of the man, and you leave no physicality on this planet, have you ascended or have you transmuted? Would the mankind have access? Would the mankind develop a technology where it can detect the position and the place of the soul of the Christ where it's descended? Because when he ascends from the earth, has to descend somewhere else to find his position. Otherwise, it goes through the roof of the universe and the unicosmos. In this process, in this understanding, man now comes to understand one step further. But it's a point of ascension, as is belief. What happened to the spirit? Did the soul of Christ took the spirit of Christ too? What we call the soul of physicality. And what was the emotion? But one of the most interesting things for us during the test in the past year in enhancement unit has been people who came deliberately with a wish to be into contact or to have a sense of dimension and connection with Christ. And we saw some of them so touched by going through the experience. Doesn't mean through the wish and fine-tuning they manage to connect to the strength field of the Christ that does not matter where he was, which heaven he was, still an ordinary man could make contact. Still an ordinary woman going through the system with expansion of the fields of his body, what we call the soul, could feel his presence, as many said. As one explained to us the color of his hair, the color of his eyes, his shape, and it wasn't blue eyes. So, what do in this world of science of today call ascension? Or with the knowledge we have, ascension has become meaningless. Does the new knowledge puts a nail in a coffin of abuse of the religions by names and what I call massive misconduct? This is what many, many of you will come, and many of the mankind will come to analyze and understand. That every single one of you has a choice of transmutation or ascension. What does the ascension mean in that process? What does the ascension bring in that process? Does it mean the one who ascends does not carry the soul of physicality and is the end of the cycle of life? That's what we understand, and that's what we need to understand. And how we explain this. The whole process, the whole understanding has been, was the ascension part of the process of taking the soul of physicality with it, or the spirit? Or is this understanding of the death of a man, termination of totality, separation from dimension of physicality of the man? There are special cases one can do this. One can separate the soul of physicality and live the physicality with it behind. In so many ways, if the body of Christ was not there when they went to look for him, did he transmute it? And if he did, this puts an end to the fallacy of ascension. Because he took the physicality with him, the way you do from New York to Tehran. Then could we, are there any remnants of his time from him that we can connect to, that we can get in access to, where his soul has ascended to, that we can connect with? This brings an end to a lot of fallacies and made up things 300, 400, 500 years ago for people to gain reputation or gain notoriety by creating something new. And then creating that special separation from, making up lies unbased, without any basis, new terminologies and conditions that get the others to accept because they could do so. And the ascension is part of the fallacies of the Christianity. The same is with what we call not finding him after 3 days. So many of you will not be found in New York, Beijing, Tehran, or wherever in the next few years as you become mastering the art of transmutation, and then you all become new prophets. This planet will have 8 billion new prophets, because you all can transmute and all can disappear the physicality and do it in a fake accident, and 3 days later do it, and then you all become new Christ. And then 40 days later, we ascend you. But God knows where the heaven is. Now you understand, science and technology puts an end to mysticism and fallacies of before, and what has been created to abuse the man. In one of our tests, where we have all our volunteers coming to lids, he can tell us where he's been, what it is, what he sees, and whatever. But the physicality is still left behind. But the soul can see the dimension of the physicality on this side. Has he ascended to us? Or has he transmuted to us? Or has he kept the body behind, but the soul moving around? So, with a new understanding and technology, new systems which are getting developed, you all have become You all have the possibility, you all have the knowledge and will gain the knowledge to disappear the third day. And wherever we find you, that'll be the new heaven. Would it be on the back streets of Bangkok or on the high streets of London shopping? Depends what is your taste and what is heaven to you. This comes to one point. This brings us to expansion on the knowledge of the transmutation and transportation. If we bring the position of transmutation on the field strength, if we bring you on the point of transmutation to one place and then you want to go to another, how do you direct the soul? Or how do you direct the soul of physicality? In the world of physicality, if we are going straight, we can stop, turn left, we can stop and reverse back, or we can jump up and jump down and change direction and position. How do we do this with the soul of the man? How do we move and hover and enjoy the position or enjoy view in different direction or dimension within the soul of the man? I would like to go to the left. I would like to go to the right. I would like to have the full awareness of the 360 degrees all the time. How do you do that? Or do we ascend, leaving the soul of physicality behind? Or do we ascend and leave the soul behind? Where you become the ghost. So, how do we, in this basic knowledge of today, we change position, we change direction? How do we dictate a new direction? And can I choose the direction to the heaven? And if anybody wants that heaven, you will see Christ there. I'm most probably sure you will see the Father too. So it comes to one point. What is the method of the choice of direction? How do you change direction if you want to go from one field of strength to another? You traveled on the magnetic field of the Mars. Now halfway through, you want to go to one of its moons, or another moon, or another position. How do you change direction? How do you create motion and directional motion? You tuned, you strengthened to land on Mars, but now you changed your thought, you want to go to Jupiter. So what does this mean? How do you do it? In the world of the flights, you change your flap and you go to the right turn. In the car, you turn your wheel to the right. How do you change direction in the dimension of travel or ascension of your soul, or transmutation of your soul? What is the technique? What is the method of change of position and direction in the dimension of the soul of the man? How do we choose? And how can we dictate the change of direction? Can be done internally, or can be done externally, or can be done through the emotion of the fields of the soul of the man in interaction with the soul of physicality. As the emotion says, I miss the father who's in another universe or another galaxy. What is the method? What would us will come to understand to do? You're in a dimension of the soul, in the dimension of transmutation, and then suddenly decide to go from New York to Tehran, you go to New York to Paris because there's a nice show in Paris or a cousin has stand up there, I want to be there. In the process of transmutation, you have a tool within the soul of the man, which is part of the structure of the man. Change of strength through the emotion of the soul of physicality and the soul of man in the direction of the motion will create new direction. What does this mean? Man has more control over the soul of physicality than the soul itself, as the soul has a dimension of the strength that the man, some will be able to master. But mainly through the change in the strength and dimension of the motion of the soul of physicality, you dictate the new direction in the dimension of the transmutation and the direction of the motion. In world of physics, you turn the wheel of the car the right way. In the world of transmutation, you change the field strength given and taken in respect to the soul of the man through the creation of the field strength separation and position from the soul. Very much is like the brain of the man, how far you are from the soul of the man in comparison to the soul of physicality creates the emotion of the joy, happiness, and the rest of it. So, man has to master the change of direction, how you achieve it for the soul of the man. Otherwise, you're a one-track pony, can only go from Earth to Mars and that's it. Till you learn something, somebody teaches you, another strength will take you to planet Zeus, or you can go to another galaxy. But I do not know how to get there unless I come back to Earth, put the new strength up in the soul, and that will take me to the new position. So you keep on going back and forth every time you want to go somewhere to Earth. The change of position in the direction of the motion of the soul of the man is done by the strength, position, absorption, and the emotion which is created between the fields of the soul of the man and the soul of physicality of the man. In the way the inner soul becomes the dictator of the direction of the motion. And that is only created by the strength of the emotion and the filtering between the two. If you remember, I explained in some of the teachings in the recent past that when we want to send you to the moon, we just don't put you there and tune you to the moon. We deliver in advance in a different way, maybe part of the strength of your soul, that the direction and the dimension has cleared for the soul where to go to. With this method, you can control the dimension of the interaction attraction. But this cannot be done with all cases. What happens if you want to go to the back of the moon and the front you can see? So in a coming time, as we teach more, we show you dimensional directional systems which dictates, which teaches you how to control the strength of the soul of physicality and the soul of the man and creation of the emotion between the two that leads to transmutation or ascension of the soul of physicality of the man to the dimension, new place and position. Even though you might call it heaven. The heaven in the dimension of the talk of the man is where the soul is happy to exist and serve. We don't have a corridors of the power which ends up in the what we call the Oval Office or the Red Room or the heaven. The heaven in the language of creation is where the soul of the man feels best to serve the rest. So is the heaven for the soul of Christ serving the humanity to reach and attain new dimension of understanding of the world of creation, and where that place would be. Has the soul of the Christ chosen another galaxy, or is nearby where he can keep and feed his followers, the ones who are connected to him through their soul, that they see the path of theirs stays clean and clear for understanding of the time when the knowledge opens up. So, where is the heaven? And how can you direct your soul to that position? Be it the heaven of Mars, the heaven of planet Zeus, or the heaven of another galaxy. Directional transmutation and transportation is one of the key points of understanding in coming up time. And then, if you reach a point that you can serve best, then you might decide, this is the point where I do not need to change the strength between the soul of physicality and the soul of the man, as this is the best place for me to be positioned. Does the soul of physicality and does the soul of the man have learned, or us to understand, to learn about the interaction in the dimension of the field strength, and not by position and moving in the steering wheel, where you'll find out you change dimension and direction instantaneously, and not by turning in possibility of the rollover. The only rolling over for man has to be to roll out these fallacies, which has been ingrained and we have accepted in our ways of thinking and thoughts. With the new knowledge, with the new understanding of the world of creation, there are no ascensions and no disappearing act after 3 days. Because now every one of you has the knowledge to do it. Then we have 365 days, and we have 8 billions. How many ascension days will create on this planet? This is what was said in the intro, and I emphasize, not for the last time, but for remind you that understand the science. Then no one can ascend you or descend you or vanish you, as you are the only one who can do all according to the emotion of the feeling of your presence. This room has a bad feeling, and I do not want to be part of it. So I shall descend myself to another. We go for a break, and we come back. And I hope you understood the meaning of ascension. And with today's knowledge, the ascension of Christ to heaven has two big flaws. Did he ascend? And where is the heaven? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. We'll take a short break here with some videos and be back in approximately 5 or 8 minutes. This is the 486 Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, May 18th, 2023.
The revolutionary new Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit is due to be launched in June 2022, and in the same year is expected to fly passengers into space, to the moon and beyond for a day or even several days at a time. There is no need for the Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit to carry food or medicine, as it is equipped with the latest space technology for transportation, transmutation and deep space operation. This extraordinary breakthrough technology ushers in a new era of travel without the need of fuel, food, or medicine, even during the longest excursions into deep space. Each spaceship unit has a 4-passenger capacity for long or short duration flights and has the capability to travel between cities on Earth in a matter of seconds to minutes, depending on the distance and speed. This ability to traverse massive distance in such incredibly short time is not just a breakthrough for human transport, it also completely revolutionizes the transportation of goods and cargo and will rapidly overcome the need for one of our most polluting practices, namely marine shipping, as it finally breaks us free not only from the combustion of heavy diesel, but from the combustion of any fuel for propulsion in the future. The Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a new paradigm in space travel, space medicine, and space technology.
The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a space technology that allows you to work with the fields of the universe. Creating a wide range of plasma field interactions and conditions, it allows the body to process itself from any physical or emotional imbalance. Once this balanced condition is achieved, the soul and emotion of the man can follow to find their balance, elevating the whole of the man. The new Horizontal Enhancement Spaceship Unit. Technology of the future through advanced plasma knowledge.
Okay, we're back again at the 486 Knowledge Seekers Workshop, and here we have our second half, where usually we have questions directed to Mr. Keshe. How would you like to begin, Mr. Keshe? Do you have some other things you'd like to say first? Hello, are you there, Mr. Keshe? Do you need a few more minutes with our break here?
No, I'm here. Just
Okay.
things. Keshe Foundation operation doesn't stop because we take a break. Things happening in the background. Okay. Go ahead.
So are you ready to take some questions then?
Let me just remind you about the sessions for elevation of the children's soul will be the views this month and for the next month for the abusers. And hopefully we should be able to do a lot of good. I was asked if there is anything left of what has been donated. More or less everything has been allocated, has been delivered, or is completed the cycle. So we have no more what we call gifts or materials to be asked for, as our donation packages are completed. If any of you would like to make a donation to the as a goods for the others to enjoy, that process is always open. Any other question? By the way, the courses for the sessions for the dentists, if you have any dental problem for the trials with our dentist, is still on, and the same is with salinity. That if you want to change anything in the dimension of the course and for the doctors to learn about in the clinical trials which they are doing for themselves, to understand more of how salinity affects the conditions like what is one of the man's biggest fear, as we've been told, with cancer and others, and maintaining what we call a balanced field within the body. The results coming from these tests are very, very interesting. And it's interesting for us in two parts. One is how the body reacts. Secondly, how we can transmute or transfer through our system in four corners of this planet and change through understanding of the technology, the salinity of the body of the man remotely. This has an enormous implication and application in what we did with, for example, with feeding you. In how the doctors in the future transmute the, what they call medicine to you. The reason for us I come through another channel because the other
Recording
channel,
in progress.
Yes, we just lost your voice there for a minute.
yeah, one of the systems has failed. Just 1 second. Okay, so what is important for us with the test with salinity is not just for you to benefit from it, to change the condition, that if you can change the pH of your body over 7 to keep away from all different conditions, but it's for us to see how effective the transmutation of the materials through the systems, through especially new wireless systems are. And this is one of the main reasons we took this position with the doctors. And what they report us from their cases, that actual salinity of the body of those who are under observation with them actually changes during the process they are on the system and the days after. So this gives us a very good insight how we can use the enhancement units for feeding. How you, as we heard in the intro, we say Monday between 4 and 6, you can have as much tomatoes as you like, and between 6 and 7, another channel, you can have as much cheese as you like. And so these trials are part of completion of the work. And now we have a confirmation to the trials done by the doctors, and those of you who are volunteering to be part of the salinity. It's not just for you to be helped to stop the future cancers or future problems with neurosystems or whatever you think of. It's for us to be able to show, and as we have shown, the what we call the progress in this process. When we put the trials of the systems for the dental care, we show the data to our doctors first, what we had and how much we have 6 or 10 weeks later. And it is part of this which is important to us. When our doctors shared the pictures of what we call the cases, we look at how things have changed, how effective it has been. Are we changing things? The trial with the tooth, which now is handled by doctors, is very fundamental. Is that showing that we can change the condition, and how many children's life we can change. Because now the technology is available. I'll show you a couple of pictures, and now you understand how effective this is. This is what we call the condition from a child. And we cannot do anything with this at the present time. At the present knowledge, what we do, what we have, is in fact how we can change these conditions. How do we come to, in a way, bring a new dimension into what we call what has not been available in dental care. And the technology today allows a change. The technology today allows us to bring that condition which done remote. This is not anymore sitting, taking chemicals and the rest, but this is restructuring the brain. How to produce and change the conditions of a tooth, of a condition of a child's life. And you will come to understand this has huge implication in what we call the world of dentistry. When you see the conditions before and after, when you see how you change the totality of a condition of a child's life with what you have created or what you can create. When the whole condition changes, and when we go and search. And we see such a thing is impossible in the world of what we call present science of dental surgery. How you can change in a very simple way using the new understanding of the creation of every part of the body of the man controlled by the soul of the man. Then you come to create and understand how powerful the new technology is, where we're not talking about one or two, we are talking about a complete change in what we call the structure of the whole life of a child. When we look at these kind of pictures, when we look at these kind of effects, our dentists will tell you these are impossibilities to change in the present world of medicine, in dentistry. And when we ask you to volunteer, is for us to understand more of and how such changes can be achieved in very few weeks, remote from thousands of kilometers away. This is the tooth of a child, and you can see it literally to the flesh. And this is very few weeks later. Where the tooth is literally recovering and growing. And when you see the changes are so fundamental. And this is what our doctors and dentists are achieving. This is a life of misery, pain, tooth extraction. And this is today, a few weeks later. And you walk away for all the problems. How far this will go? Will it become a complete tooth in the next 6 months, 12 months? And would we see the changes? Because if you're a dentist, and if you're an ordinary man, you can understand the difference between the two. No chemicals, no medicine, nothing was used. The target of our dentists and doctors is to grow a tooth where it has gone. It's been pulled out if it's possible. It's been the dream of the dentists. And using the new technology by them, I'm sure they will try. As you can see, the difference between the two is very clear. We see new bones, new structures, new covers appear. It's the same for us with the what we call the world of salinity. Can we create a condition? Would you like to change the screen, please, Greg? Can we come to the point that with application of the remote, we can deliver directly, for example, to build a piece of wall of a heart of a baby the way we did with a tooth from thousands of kilometers away without open heart surgery? Can we rebuild part of a kidney which has been damaged in your dialysis machine? Can our doctors with a new technology remove kidney stone without any intervention? Do they need to change the salinity within a kidney for the stone to melt within a few sessions? And now you understand why we tell you, volunteer. Do you want me to go to multinationals and tie your hand with research? Or do you want to do it yourself and help the others and our doctors to understand? We are not in medical practices. We are in elevation of the soul, how the soul decides to change the what we call dimension within dimension of physicality. And secondly, all these trials done by the doctors. We are providers of the knowledge. So, if you want to see if it works, if it can bring a new understanding for us, volunteer. And opposite to the other researchers or doctors and institutions where they go out and look for billions to pay scientists to find out, Keshe Foundation asks you to pay for, as volunteer, for us to learn, for scientists to bring the new dimension. In the coming time, Keshe Foundation will have access and be part of a structure of one of the largest research organizations in the world. Our research centers from Austria will move out in a very short time. And Keshe Foundation will join and become part of one of the largest nations' research organizations into space development. We have signed the documents and the process is time. Keshe Foundation has and will become one of the major research organizations with the support of one of the largest nations on this planet. One of the most powerful nations on this planet has signed itself to the development of Keshe Foundation technology. And in coming time, they will announce their way and how they do it. So many of you who are knowledge seekers truly in research will be called upon us, on you, to join us. And if you find your way fits the new research development, you'll be invited to join the research teams of the Keshe Foundation worldwide. No expenses will be spared by the organizers and our partners in this research and development, as long as it's beneficial to all of us. We have signed ourselves to this agreement, and those who are working with it, they know the process started. We have appointed our management team to run and to see this system through step by step. Over the next few months and years, you hear more about what Keshe Foundation has become and what we deliver according to what we have signed ourselves to, which means we are out of the game of what we've done up to now, but in a very big way on the international arena work and national levels for development of new technologies. if you have, not just because you made one gases you think you are God, but scientific background in different applications of the technology of the Keshe Foundation, we'll invite you to join us. We'll assess you. We just don't take you up because you're a knowledge seekers and you made one gas one day, but it has to be a thorough research in what we want, and we'll pick up on the scientists to join us. And you'll be part of a national governmental organization and Keshe Foundation joint work. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. I'll remind our attendees here that they can raise their virtual hands, and then we can open your microphone for you if you have any questions. We have some questions in the Q&A. First one from Carlos. Says, good morning, Mr. Keshe and all seekers of knowledge. Today in this class, we have a combined sequence of numbers starting from Knowledge Seekers Workshop 486, day 18, reaching 369, where the wonderful Tesla declares that these numbers are the key to the universe. Our souls have a Tesla strength. Even the wave of a certain force that becomes emotion, laughter, and joy has a force that can be measured in Tesla. Can you guide us better about these numbers in plasma technology? Thank you for your attention.
Plasma technology has no numbers. 3 6s or whatever comes to 18 and 9 is what man has made numbers of. And it works on the strength field and the emotion of the strength. And symbolic numbers has no meaning in the world of the plasma. It's very much, some of us don't believe in number 13, and if you are Jewish, in all the hotels, which is 100% Jewish, always have floor 13. In the Chinese hotels, some places don't find a 4th floor because number 4 and death have near the same sound. Nobody wants to die on the 4th floor. And some people believe number 9 is lucky is at the end to start from a 0. But what happened if our ancestors would have decided there would have been the 10 with a figure instead of 1 and 0? And 11 would have been the beginning of. So this is all man-made way to keep himself busy. Any other question?
Okay, from Cristiano, or through Cristiano, a question from Pamela from the Brazilian community. Says, good morning, Mr. Keshe. The plasma science through the technology comes to show us that the true freedom is within our reach. But for this, we need to have the courage to deal with several inner issues that bind us to the physicality and to the planet. Something that I feel is a source of attachment is fear. And many times we are so used to looking for protection all the time that we are not even aware that fear keeps us numb. Can you tell us a little about this emotion of fear that permeates humanity?
Fear is what maybe we call used or developed out of man's need. Would my need be satisfied? Fear of not having food, fear of height, fear of hunger, fear of thirst. And we have created this for us as a means of maybe finding our own limitation. And this is just become an emotion. If you had all the food, if you had a wing, does a bird have a fear of height? Does a fish have a fear of water? We have created these for ourselves. And it's something that in space has more or less no meaning. Will you have a fear of height if you jump off a plane? And would you have a fear of height if you jump out of a spaceship in the middle of space? Which height? In reference to where? Will you have fear of hunger in the space or thirst? Will I be fed in space? If you have learned to live in the dimension of the soul, and you know there are no restaurants and no water holes for trillions of kilometers away, then you have learned to tap into the fields of the universe to receive the energies which actually you call it water or banana, without actually having anything in your possession to eat or drink. So fear has come out of the man's, what we call limitation of understanding he can have, and it's him who has to create the conditions. Become a bird. Does a bird, when he flies, keeps on, ooh, how high am I? Can I go down? What happens if I fall down? But he just enjoys the flight of fancy. And it's the same with the fish. Would the fish ever think, oh, what happened to the water? Where's the next one coming in? So we have created as a human in the brain of even animals, out of what can bring our demise most of the time. Fear does not exist in the space if you become the true man of space. The only fear of the man ever, even in space, has to be how far close do I become to my Creator, and how well I have not served. And that should not become a fear. That should become in a way of understanding. And it should not exist as it does not exist in space. If I throw you out of the window, or you stand behind the window, do you have a fear? Or till I explain to you how high it is. I was with a very young child the past few weeks, and the child was standing more or less looking down on top of a, what we call like a skyscraper, very, very high building, and enjoying the view and going from one glass to another. And I said, this child at this young age has no sense of height. If the window wasn't there, she'll jump out. It's us who puts that fear in her. It's us who creates that condition. Doesn't matter on the first floor or on the 100th floor. There is no fear because there's no awareness of position. And we learn a lot from children and how you create that fear in them. because it's the fear within us. How many of you have frightened your children from the dark? Oh, it's dark. What about, wow, it's dark. Dark is greeted, and the other noise, dark is feared. It's us who see that in ourselves, in our children. And in a space is dark. And if I throw you out of the spaceship, no parachutes will work, because you don't even know where you're going to land, and there is no height because there is no point of reference. Any other question?
Well, you've answered the. Okay, we've got a couple of more questions here in the Q&A, actually. From Alexandra from the Brazilian community. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. First question, would our ascension be directly linked to our conduct here on Earth? And at the moment of our disincarnation, would we seek places according to our fields of attraction, which could be the heaven or the hell, as the religions say?
Direction of ascension is very funny things to put, because what happened where your soul is supposed to take position is on the other side, where you have to go right through the center of the earth to go to the position you go. Or does your soul turn circuits around the earth and then you go north pole up? Does magnetic field or field of the strength of the plasma of your soul position time and space dependent for its point of ascension? So, if I can answer you in a very funny way, if you're in the North Pole and you're supposed to ascend, you go straight up into the sky. If you're in South Pole opposite, to ascend, do you actually go through the Earth and then go up the North Pole? Or does your ascension come through South Pole going up into space? So what happened if Christ would have been on the South Pole when the ascension took place? Now you understand that it's field strength, position, time, and place. If the diameter thickness of the earth is no obstacle for the soul to go through to ascend, then you can imagine which position, how many stars will go right through them to get to the position of his destination or in heaven. As I said, servitude is the heaven. And when you stop serving, you're already in hell anyway. Because you don't receive it to elevate yourself. Another question.
Okay, the second question from Alexandra. In a past teaching, you said that one day you would bring other information about Jesus that we don't know. Are we ready to hear more about these revelations about Jesus' life?
Yes, very soon. The way we unraveled about Moses and the commandments, which is the brief. Jesus had access to much more information. But the pleasure of female was more than the pleasure of sharing. He shared some of the knowledge he had with his female companions. And in future time, we see how the rabbis in a synagogue who their wives had relationship with Jesus use this as a way of declaring new knowledge and work. Some of the rulers of Jerusalem and that time, because Jesus wasn't just a pretty boy, a very handsome man. He was very talkative and he wanted to share knowledge, very much like me. Sharing a knowledge of creation is unlimited. And when you enjoy the presence of your partner and you're still in the realm of showing what you know, Jesus shared a lot of knowledge he should have shared with his disciples and other people, with the Pillowmates. And they made sense a lot to them. That's why they loved him so much, because of the knowledge. And some of this knowledge in a pillow talk with the real husband was given to husband, but they were admiring the lover, which was Jesus. And he didn't companion poor and ordinary people. He companioned the richest and the wealthiest and the influential. And some of these influential people, the knowledge they gained through their wives as the lovers of Christ, then was used in the history of what we call Judaism. And some of it became science and knowledge. In the future, the same as we did with the commandments, will show how actually Christ shared a lot of knowledge, but he enjoyed to share it with women and men as they fell in love with him deeper, and he enjoyed being loved. And he shared a lot of knowledge, huge amount of knowledge with his female companions. Any other question?
We have a couple of hands up here. Dean, would you like to go first, please?
Thank you, Rick. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. Mr. Keshe, you spoke today extensively about the teeth, and I know the emotion that this causes within children, because I experienced this myself. So, and I know that if you have something like this and you have a physical appearance, how it affects you. So it's not just teeth, this is any bodily function that humanity has. And unless you have this condition, for others, it doesn't exist. So it, for the ones that have it, it does contain a very strong emotion that affects you your whole life. So these physicalities that that we carry around, they cause us all sorts of conditions that we have to be part of. By balancing this out and taking this emotion away, it will greatly enhance the children of humanity to experience a much more functional emotion. So I know how beautiful this will be once this takes place. Is it very much also like the transmutation of a body, as would be the same for a tooth?
What do you mean by that?
Well, we say it's Ascension Day today. Christ ascended and all these sorts of things. A tooth is very much has a soul, so it has the same capabilities as any prophet. It can come into the matter state, function, and then go back into a plasmatic condition. So it has the same properties as any prophet. So is it like an ascension? Is it a transmutation of a tooth?
In the case of a tooth, we create condition through the soul. And as everything has to be balanced, the process transfers into the physicality. We don't sit deliberately to grow a tooth or repair a tooth. We sit to satisfy the need of the soul to have a what we call balance field. And if that is taking the pain out of the body of the man by creating a tooth where you have to chew on your gums and with the pain of it, that will happen. This is what I keep on emphasizing, and knowledge seekers and the world outside Keshe Foundation doesn't understand. We are not in the game of pharmaceutical. We are not in the game of medicine. We are in the process of the expansion and innovation of the soul. And this is what no one wants to understand, because then they find out that we are attacking for nothing. We are dismissing for nothing. If you have a tooth missing, if you have a cancer, you're suffering. If you have a problem with your kidney, which causes you this balance in the fields of the interaction between the soul of the man, the soul of physicality of the man, and then you bring it to where you actually started through the interaction of the two, and you fix the problem, you create the tooth, you get rid of got those kidney stones or cancer. These are the secondary effects, not the primary set to create. Magnetical field and gravitational field creates the mass. Then, in respect to that inertia, then you create the secondary condition of the weight. If you understand this, you understand that in the world of the creation, you could have 1,000 teeth, and you can have 20 kidneys, and you'll be happier than having one. But would all of them be misfunctioning? Or would they create you more pain? Or would they create you another condition of suffering? It's not that with the new technology we cannot create anything. With the new technology, we understand to create the balance fields between the soul of the man and the soul of physicality. And the rest follows by itself. A lot of you go through, or a lot of men, especially women, go through plastic surgery to gain a feature that they think will look good for them and they want to look. If our doctors become knowledgeable, you can do a beautiful plastic surgery job through the soul of the man, with everything perfect to the satisfaction of the soul of the man, where the soul of physicality will adjust itself for it to show. As I said, you decide to have a blue eye now, and in the afternoon you're with a lover who likes a brown eye, you change it to brown, and in the evening you're with another person who you want to see you're not racist, he's black and you make yourself black to be the same. This now is at the reach of the man with this knowledge. It's just man has to understand how to control it and how to use it. But would the color of the skin of a black at night will be to the satisfaction of the soul of the man? Or it's just that the soul of physicality wants to show itself that it can. Then you understand you fail.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. The condition that I don't want to really speak about myself because it is for others. However, my experience was that another soul, I had a perfect formation of my tooth, and another soul decided to take this away by an action in a schoolyard, a playground. And was
Did
that
you
soul
knock it out
there
or
in
did you
position?
break it?
Sorry?
Did you knock it out or did you break it?
It was knocked out by a catapult. So I had I was
In
playing
an English private school, I presume.
No, it wasn't private school. This is a very normal school. And I was tapped on the shoulder and I looked round and someone already had this catapult pulled and let go of it. The stone hit my tooth and cut it in half. And it affected my whole life in strange ways. But was the soul put there for me to experience this? Because, yeah, it's a little thing.
You're not
Little
expecting our dentist to grow it for you, are you?
Yeah, but now it's moved on from that now, Mr. Keshe, where the dentists have interacted over years and changed the condition drastically and caused me a lot of other conditions where they've done things that, yeah, a lot of trust has been taken away by what they've done. And I've had to live with that for a long time. But it's affected me. And I have to admit that, A, to myself and then to others. And it's such a small thing. It seems so ridiculous. This is why I was trying to explain that for the other children, like that child you've shown, it was a much more dramatic and physical thing. And I feel for that soul because I know how that affects everything that child will have within its structure of, and this is just the teeth. You move on to the other bodily functions that we all, as human beings, we don't have them certain conditions. And so when the others, we see it, we see the pain it causes, but we tend to, unless you're directly connected, you sort of pull away a little bit. And so there's an energy transfer that that occurs, whether it's magnetic or gravitational. And this is the same with all body functions. And I think a lot of this, there's very few people I think walk through life totally with nothing. There are a few, but not many. And for those that do, are they in a higher position? Are they reaching a different position in their on the soul level?
Purely lucky.
Purely lucky. Okay.
And you think they don't have, they still do.
Okay.
My mother used to tell, I used to tell to my mother, I said, you know something, if there is no problem at home, you put a cup of water on the edge of the table and you knock it off and you stop worrying what happened to the cup. If I would have put a cup there, I didn't have to clean on the rest of it.
Yeah.
So when people always create that cup and they just tap it to go down, that they have something to worry about.
Isn't there a Jewish saying, Mr. Keshe, that they say, you're not married? What do you do for aggravation?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is part of life. But we are not in people's life to understand that they have nothing and never happened anything to them. They have no worries. It's very strange. We're talking about this some time ago. You know, in the West, in the magazines, they glorify these very slim girls and they brush them to show how thin they are and everything. You know, something has caused a lot of social problem for other girls or young girls who want to be the same. But if you go to the countries like Thailand, China, and the rest, the features which they put as a dream feature in the, what they call Western magazines is a daily life in hundreds of thousands walking the streets. So those who live anorexia life and they want to be so slim, when they go to these countries, they might literally suffer so bad that how come this nation is so thin and we glorify the blondie with a thin body on the Western magazines to show that's how your life should be. How many of our children, literally in thousands, are suffering because the media has chosen what we call figures to fit that cannot be achieved, and how they brush them, and how many of them live in agony, not eating food, going through bulimia and the rest of it, just to see that was a perfect, I'm not perfect. Where every child in any shape or body is perfect. how Western media or magazines or publications have created so much disease conditions with children, and some of them will take their lives because they can't have the shape of the body on the such a front magazines, where on the streets of Bangkok and Beijing and other places, it is normality of ABC. And when you walk with these even bodies in these or people in these environments who actually have the body, you find out they're full of diseases and conditions and everything else which goes with it. Just because your eye looks perfect outside doesn't mean inside works perfect too. We create these conditions. We have created these false images, and not everybody, or some people have never had any problem and they all look happy. I think that percentage is absolutely zero in the lifespan of a life of a man.
Mr. Keshe, you said that every child is perfect. That's a beautiful thing. And so when we understand that, and when we realize that the perfection is already within us, and we don't, and what we reflect out, what we need to show to others is an emotion within inside ourselves.
I have a philosophy and I work that way, and I leave it to be understood because I never speak about it, but in a way you live through it, but partially affects you physically or emotionally, is if you have a child who's handicapped, if you have a child who is autistic, do you see the physicality outside? Or have you learned through the teaching to communicate with the soul? And if you can establish that way to communicate with your child through his soul, would you see any imperfection in him anymore? Or would that condition lead for the soul of the child to perfect the imperfection in the physicality? We try to get children's physicality or illnesses fixed by medicine and operation. But the only thing we don't do, we don't go into their soul to fix their soul. Because maybe soul that needs that imperfection for it to receive what it needs for next elevation. But when you speak to the soul, you don't see the imperfections. You don't see what is not there. Many parents with autistic children tell you, oh, he's this and that. Be it, enjoy the beauty of what it is, but it's your problem. You have to learn to communicate with the soul. And I've taught many ways you can do. Then you see the beauty of your child, and the physicality in public or private is irrelevant. And if you can establish that connection of the soul with your child, then you'll find out that maybe even through the elevation of the soul, communication and interaction with the soul, the physicality will fix itself. This is why I keep on saying, and most of knowledge seekers do not comprehend what it means, is when you create the children of the soul, there shall be no imperfection. Because if you see as an imperfection in physicality, communicating to the soul, you understand the reason for it, and you admire that what is imperfection as a beauty. And maybe today is there and tomorrow will not be there, because your soul transfers its emotion to the soul of the child, that this, what you suffer with, bothers me. So for the love of you, the soul of the child changed the physicality for you not to suffer. And this is what I call the next generation of the children of the man born through the ethos of Mitra will be perfect.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Keshe. That's beautiful. May I ask a question?
The reality is not beautiful.
Yeah, I know. May I ask a question, Mr. Keshe, if you could, please? So if a soul takes another position, so today we've spoken about the belief system of theology and Christ, and that soul has taken a new position. Did that soul have physicality issues that would have affected in any way, or was Christ of a different construction? Or was he was a man that had the same as any man?
Christ was the man as a man and no different from any other man. He only understood more interaction with the knowledge of the creation. This is the only difference that what we call prophets have, or scientists. They unravel another step in the cycle of the creation, which is already there. I was explaining this very recently to a knowledge seeker. In past few weeks and months, a huge amount of knowledge has been released, which with it needs a lot of understanding. Not to you, but in a way for us to see what needs to be done to bring man to the new level. And this knowledge is far beyond the understanding of the man today. But we teach it, but you don't understand it. In the teaching of today, speaking about the what we call ascension of Christ, I have given to you some very precise, detailed information, which I promise you, at this moment of time today, even if you listen to this teaching 100 times, you will not be able to understand. To you is something, oh, this is what I know. But if you listen to this teaching about ascension in 10 years' time, plus what is going to be added on knowledge, then you see, this is what he meant with that word in there. We release a lot of knowledge for elevation of the soul. We release a lot of detailed, precise know-how of how to do things in the world of creation, in space, whatever you call it. But man is like a blind, doesn't see the light. What's the use of explaining between the difference between green, yellow, and whatever light you have? And this is what it is. There is huge amount of knowledge is passed on to you as knowledge seekers. And what you call in time, like a lot of you go on 140th teaching, 5 or 7, 8 years upon some on the 200th teaching and find out something new, and you can't tell people. In the future, people will listen to this teaching of today, understand what we taught about the soul and transmutation of the soul, what you call ascension. And I can go through the teaching of today, 2 seconds of it, pick it up and make you to understand in 200-300 hours what that 2 seconds meant.
Sorry, Mr. Keshe, to stop you. Carry on. Sorry, carry on. I shouldn't stop.
Carry on, no problem.
So I know exactly what you mean by, well, not exactly, but I understand what you mean by this because I've experienced this many times. I think many knowledge seekers have, where we pick up some of the teachings, some of the things that you say, and then we go back and we understand in a much different level, and it's according to our field strength and our experiences that we have. Then we gather the knowledge, and then we go back, and then as you said, we understand it in another way, and it does mean that sometimes it's in a totally different way, and it's almost like a gravitational magnetical. It's almost like a complete flip of knowledge, and it just constantly grows. I know many knowledge seekers experience this a lot.
I was in a meeting very recently with most probably not necessarily powerful but influential man for what we call decision making of a nation. And next to him were two scientists. And I try to explain to this man about the decisions you make. If you understand the technology, what we're talking about on the table will affect your nation in the next 10 or 15 years. So you have to make decisions on this table in what this technology is going to do to your nation in 10 or 15 years, even though it will look to the people today, what you are doing for the next 10 or 15 years is irrelevant. Because you've seen the knowledge, you've seen the technology, and you know it'll bring relevance and it'll bring changes into the life of man in 5 or 10 years. So you plan for the next 10 or 15 years, knowing what knowledge is on the table. And he could not, he understood, and the scientists next to him were shaking their head that this guy is not understanding what you're telling. We know what you're talking about. The changes which the technology will bring in the decision-making of financial structure of the nation 10 or 15 years, what you decide to then stick to, even know what is to come, is wrong. And this is what we have a problem with. Knowing what is to come, but fear of others not be able to carry, then you carrying it out and the others to join, is one of the biggest problems in the structure of our lives. Does not matter family, does not matter a nation, does not matter whatever. And we share the knowledge, and the fear of what I call grasping it and be able to bring it to the next step is one of the biggest problems for a structure like ours in the next 10, 20 years. In the next maybe 12 months, maybe 6 to 12 months, when the Keshe Foundation becomes one of the prime structures of the science and technology, the way we see it, will be something on the horizon to come. Many world institutes, many scientists will go through these teachings and spend thousands and thousands of PhDs and doctorates to decipher every word and what it means and the implication of it in the world of the science of the man. And when you get to that point, then there's no question of what somebody decided because he had the fear of how to translate or transfer the knowledge to bring a new effect, then he might lose his position. Then what actually will bring, and he shows and strengthens his position. We start giving you a lot of hints. We start giving you a lot of readiness to prepare the knowledge seekers for what is to come. And it's not that it might come. We have signed ourselves, and the nation has signed themselves to us. And we are doing it in a very slow pace, step by step, even though we passed many steps before. But we're ready for that change in the coming time, very, very short time. The top administrators and people who run the Keshe Foundation have already engaged into this change. And then most of this knowledge will be deciphered in public and will be taught in public in the next 5 or 10 years. And how much our present world leaders will come to accept and to change. and how much of it is there for them not to have the fear of their position to bring that change. The Keshe Foundation top management team, people who work very close with us, already going through preparation for this. And in the next few weeks and months, we start preparing you as knowledge seekers to be ready and prepared for what is to come. And it's not as a talk, as we have signed ourselves into it with one of the largest, most powerful nations or leadership in this planet. It's just that we have to go through a position of transition, and they have to understand, and somewhere down the line, in the next year or 2 years, building the trust and working step by step. We're already engaged into this change.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. I know how you spoke about the leader and understanding his position, and how difficult this can be for, you have this strength within you, and you feel that you are in a position to help others or to give to others. And it becomes an addiction. And then that addiction grows, and then it's being able to release that so that you do become more of a giver by doing that. And then you give more to the nation, you give to the souls of the nation. And when you start interacting on that level, then you as you've spoken about earlier, when you take a new position, and if you have enough field strength, then you may become a planet or maybe a sun or maybe a galaxy. You have this ability within you when you interact with the soul of man, and this gives you another position as an eternal being. Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you. With knowledge seekers, we inform you, and in totality we prepare you for what is to come. But this time around, we leave it to the nations to announce what they have brought with the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation. And this is to come in and to come out as a knowledge of the foundation, and what as a whole, as knowledge seekers, you contribute to what you believe in. Technology in exchange for peace. And we have signed ourselves to it. And the nation has signed themselves to it through the structure of leadership to this process. But they still want to be safe, they still want to see more, they still want to do things in the small steps that it makes sure that the nation is solid on what it shows and brings. And we are there to collaborate and do so. And the top management of the Keshe Foundation are working day and night in our way in the past few weeks. Any other question?
Okay, we've got a couple of other hands up here, as well as a few questions in our chat. Let me see, Antonio, you were first here, and then Azar after that.
Good morning, Mr. Keshe. Thank you, Rick.
How are you?
It's Antonio from Australia. A couple of questions, if that's okay. With the ascension, is there a connection between our soul and our spiritual sun?
Explain the spiritual sun. To me, the spiritual sun is the creator, if you put it that way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're all
that's my
connected to this. We're all part of it, not connected to it. Connection is different than being part of.
uh-huh.
You know, say I know such a person, but I'm the son of such a person.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
We are all the sons, not by knowledge knowing.
Mhm.
So it's us to accept our position and understand there is no limitation.
Right. Okay. Also, through my studies and that, the Christ and Jesus has been indicated as two separate individuals, and during Jesus's life, the Christ worked through Jesus, a bit like the Buddha working through Gautama.
Let's explore this a little bit. You put it on the table.
Yeah.
Jesus is the physicality of the man. Christ is the soul of the creator within the soul of the physicality.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going through, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's, if we understand this, then we understand we're dealing with the same person, the physicality of the man or the soul of the man.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been misinterpreted and played with a lot. It's like so-and-so and such a job. The job goes with Mr. So-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So
Yeah.
when we talk about Jesus, is the man, physicality of it.
Uh-huh.
When we
Yeah.
talk about the Christ, is a soul within the man, which is connected to the soul of the Creator, which we all have that access now. We understand, always been there, but we denied ourselves to it. So, is your physicality and the soul, which is within it, belongs to somebody else or is something else? And if we clarify this, we clarify a lot of things in the world of Christianity, where Jesus is the man and Christ is the soul of the Creator within it.
So, in your understanding, is the Christ the love of the Creator?
Is the Creator. It's not the love of Creator.
Uh-huh.
It's the essence of his existence.
Which is within all of us, everyone.
Of course. Of course.
So when there's joy in our hearts, he feels it. When there is pain, he feels it. He feels everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's us, it's him. You see, this is the part where money making took over a lot of things with Christianity, when they found out they can make a lot of money out of it. Especially as we see after 3rd, 4th century, 30, 40 years, the Vatican has spent unlimited amount of money to destroy all the books or collect the books and hide them, or any article which does not comply within the Vatican wishes and what they want to indoctrinate. It does not matter what religion, and doesn't matter which sect of Christianity. As you know, there's a summit meeting of European leaders in Iceland in past days. But none of you knows the reason for this meeting. Is the first time for a very long time, the Council of Europe has been called in Iceland for the crisis in Ukraine. How come this week? How come in such a hurry? How come the knowledge in the background is not open to public? Why the council is meeting? One of the time part of the council met was during the blowing up the Russian nuclear reactor. How to prevent, how to protect Western Europe and most of the Europe from the fallout of Chernobyl. The council has met in a hurry for the nuclear bomb shells which have gone in Ukraine last week. And most of the Western world is being kept especially blind by this. When we saw the first pictures of the British showing the Ukrainians these shells some weeks ago, I warned of a nuclear disaster. And this nuclear disaster has happened last week, but none of you is aware of it. The reason being, one of the countries which is on the main line of the fallout is Berlin. IEA in the past even 48 hours shows high level of radiation increase in Western frontier.
Is that the bombing of the nuclear power plant? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Some people, we became aware of it the minute it happened. I was informed by the what they call nuclear intelligence that we are on the verge of a nuclear disaster. And Keshe Foundation has declared his position to the authorities that we are ready to react the way we done it at Fukushima. But the Council of Europe leaders now in Iceland have tried to see how they will break this to us, because they recognize it could be limited area, and in over time, maybe in 10 years, 5 years, we open it up after it happened. The British moved all these tank shells with nuclear waste, whatever they call reusable, whatever, yes, into Western Ukraine to be used on the cities in Russia or in the front line. And as usual, British are hauled with what we call Russian-loved people. The position of these ammunitions were released or was aware of the Russians tracked it, doesn't matter whatever you put it. And the Russians with 2 supersonic missiles hit the depot last week.
Oh yeah, I heard about it only today. That
yeah.
So
if
that
you
was,
look at the cloud, is very much a nuclear cloud. If you look at the pictures which are coming out of Ukraine, satellite pictures, we see fire within the center of the mushroom, which shows a high temperature meltdown. When you bomb something, it goes. But when you see heat right in the center and the mushroom, it brings a lot of attention into the whole process. I immediately responded to authorities, Keshe Foundation on standby. We have the materials on standby to deliver, as we did January of this year to IAEA. Many casualties of this will come up. And what we've seen in the past days, 2 days or 3 days, we see robots in this military base putting the fires out and no fireman. We don't see any personnel in this area. and everything is done by remote machines, fire extinguishers, which is used for nuclear and chemical power explosions.
Terrible news, Mr. Keshe.
Oh, it's a fact. Fox is keeping it off the line because Europeans and Americans don't want it to be known. But as knowledge seekers on the front line, Germany, Berlin, coming down to Prague, to the point, use heavily and measure the gamma ray radiation on your, what I call, environment. Use extensively copper-2 gas. Mix it with magnesium and use the waters of it, wash your body and everything else where it need be if you see high level radiation. Gamma radiation in this explosion is double to triple normal in past week. As knowledge seekers, we are responsible for you. Try to keep your children inside and make sure most of the vegetation, whatever you use, vegetables, fruits, or whatever, especially if you buy it in open markets, are washed with gas water to mixture water. And always add the magnesium to it. And be prepared.
Would the rays affect us here in Australia?
We expect flow down line into northern France. Italy will be most probably partially, but it depends where the wind takes it or will it blow back into the Kiev. But at the moment, Berlin is on the alert for us, especially if you're knowledge seekers in Berlin area, down on line. Take the map, look at where the explosion is, look at the wind flows in past few days. Even the wind charts have been adjusted not to show this in many, many things. So it's not bringing you a fear, it's just a knowledge you have to have, like a corona. In the Prague area on that side, you're on a higher alert because this explosion is very much down the line for you. And continuously, for the next at least 6 to 10 weeks, use COP1, COP2 gases, produce as much as you can, and mix it with magnesium. Tablet of magnesium in the water, in gas water, very small amounts. And keep yourself very, very safe from this. And keep your children as much as possible indoor or away from the open fields of radiation.
So food contaminated, food.
It's falling. It's a fallout. It's a massive. We see in the report boards supersonic missiles hitting. You see the first explosion and the heat inside it and the mushroom cloud. You see it. We saw. I came to see this within minutes when it happened. And as we stand advisors to some parts of this structure, it's your job to protect yourself. It's our job to inform you as knowledge seekers. We have a heavy number of knowledge seekers into that side of Germany. And all the way down, going to Berlin and down, follow the windfall. In northern France, part of Luxembourg, Holland, Belgium right across, south east coast of United Kingdom, possibly up to Wales. It depends how the wind changes and how the flow we see. But we had what was our biggest fear of a nuclear explosion in Central Europe in past week to.
But, we can only blame ourselves, Mr. Keshe. The British supplying the weapons that cause this problem. You know, and of course, you know, when there was a time to negotiate a peace, the Europeans didn't want a peace.
No, the thing is, in a way, this has two sides, edge cutting. If these individual shells would have been used in different part of Russia by the Ukrainian joint forces or whatever, we would have seen massive devastations in different part of Russia or in the Ukraine part, which they were hoping to gain back. They would have bombed themselves again to it. But now there's a very tight lips on this one. And I'm sure this is not all the ammunition. There's more somewhere else. We'll hear about this use of these things by the armies of Ukrainian army. But at the moment, we just inform you, knowledge seekers, if you live in that part of the world, be prepared, keep yourself very tight with it, buy radiation detectors if you can, and measure continuously a standard level and a higher level if it comes to your way. And just look after yourselves. There are pictures of it on the internet. I can go into details. A nuclear explosion, you can see, is a different than a standard explosion.
It's quite hard to find the information on it right now because Google is screening it quite, censoring it quite heavily.
Yeah, we know. I can give you pictures. I can give you, we actually measure the heat in the center of the top.
One article talked about, it's about $500 million worth of weapons, basically. So yeah, there'll be a lot of heat, I would think.
No, it's radiation heat is different than a normal heat.
Mm-hmm. But so much of them together in one place.
Yeah. But just to be safe in knowledge, because even those of you who live in Kiev and that side, try to produce as much as can. So cup 1, cup 2 you can use, add magnesium to it. Because if it is inhaled or digested, this still can take it out.
Yeah. I don't know whether to thank you for the good news or bad news.
Either way, it's not the news. It's the way has been done, and the British were trying to get rid of the problem they had for years. They didn't know where to dump this. Now the whole Europe will get the fallout of it.
You know, they talk about Russia compensating Ukraine and rebuilding it and that. Well, the British should be compensating Europe, in my opinion.
When I had this news you're talking about, it made me actually laugh.
Yeah.
Who is compensating Iraq?
Yeah.
Libya.
Who's Palestinians?
Palestinians for past 10 years or whatever. How come the Russians have to compensate and not the British? Don't forget there is a court case which is completed. They're trying to duck and dive with past, God knows, decade plus, for the European nations to pay compensation to the Africans for the lives they took out of Africa as the slaves. They were convicted, they lost the court case. And after decades, they're still battling not to pay. Compensate for the life they took out of Africa. When it comes to...
and the resources.
Yeah.
They stole it.
Yeah, but either way, it's what do you call it? Now this situation in Ukraine brings out a new dimension in the game. And as I said, I wonder how many European leaders will end up in Kiev in coming times till this is settled. It's going to be there for next 3 months, and God knows where it's going to sit. It's a clear nuclear explosion. I've studied every second of its rise, heat temperature, and as a nuclear physicist, it's a clear, what we call nuclear explosion.
Is there some sort of implosion device that can minimize?
We announced our being ready to IAEA for the nano-material last December, when the problem was lighting up on the largest nuclear power station in Europe, when there was a problem or possibility. We have declared our position to the Chinese government, readiness to deliver if Chinese military decides to intervene with the delivery of the material to contain this radiation. And IAEA has access to the same, but news ban on it and the control is definitely my job as a head of the Keshe Foundation's nuclear physicist to warn our knowledge seekers in Western part of Europe to be ready and to not to be ready. Please start protecting yourself. You have the technology, you have the knowledge. And buy a few detectors and see if radiation in your area has risen or is keeping up above. Then you know how you have to protect yourself. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. We'll move to Azar now.
Good morning, Mr. Keshe. There's something I read a few times, some places. It's called Trinity. It's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Is the same thing as the soul, physical soul, and the physicality?
More or less.
Is correct?
More or less depends how you read into it, how do you want to interpret it.
Okay, and then another thing is, I saw an interview. This parent, they had a twin, and the twin, they had a genetic disease, and from the time they were very little, they constantly had conditions. They had to be hospitalized, and the doctors told the parents by age of 7 and 8, they're both gonna die. So these parents were very Christian, and then they were talking to the parents. That mother said, I got to the point that I told God, they're not mine, they're yours. You want to take them away from me, you can take them. And then talking to the father, and the father says, the same way Abraham was told to sacrifice his son, and then God, and he said, okay, and then at the end, God gave him a lamb to sacrifice. So they went to church, and the whole community knew about these two kids, and they were very, when the mother at the church, she said, when I said that, I said, God, you want to take them, take them. They were talking to the kids now they're 14. And the kids were saying, at that point, we felt the disease left our body. And then the mother said, they asked the Holy Spirit. So my question is, how this thing happen? What is the logic behind it? When something like this completely disappears and the children who are supposed to die just completely become healthy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We do this without enhancement unit. Mother does with her soul. Nothing, no mystery to it. She is given birth to them, and a moment of position, time, and emotion, she releases energy which corrects what she created with her own creation with the other two children. This would have been a mystery 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but now you understand the power of the enhancement, the power of enhancing the soul. So it should be no mystery. How does it happen? You do that with a tooth. We know that people with different conditions. But you have to fine tune to find the right strength. Mother created to.
Thank you.
She had direct access to the strength to change. When you elevate the soul, it changes. Now these things are, what do you call it, should be to you as knowledge seeker, straightforward. You should understand it. It's the only way you can. You give me a brain. I created any man, any color or shape you like it to be in the dimension of physicality. Any other question?
Thank you.
Okay, we have several questions in the chat here. Perhaps we can address. Go back to Amir, who asks, hello, Mr. Keshe, if possible, please talk about the effects of nanocoat, and he calls it eddy carnet or eddy carnet. I think he means eddy currents.
Current, yeah. What about it? What do they want to talk about?
Well, Amir, we can allow to talk if you wish, Amir, and maybe you can describe to Mr. Keshe your question. If you're able, Amir. Not sure if he, oh, there he is, the microphone now. Hello? Hello, Amir.
Hello.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to hear you. The internet connection is not very good. Can you try again? Hello, Amir. Can you try again? I don't think we have a good enough connection for his communication to come through. Yeah, sorry, Amir. Your voice is not coming through.
I think we got a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps you can write in the chat to further describe your question, or what effects of nanocoat and any eddy currents are you particularly interested in? Yeah, sorry, we're not able to.
We can't get
hear
him
you.
in.
I'll have to mute you unless you can get a better connection. All right.
Okay, can we go to the next question?
Yes. That I'm not sure what the voice is coming through there. I've already turned off his microphone. That's the leftover from the lag of our conversation.
Okay.
From
Yeah.
Ivani in here, where is it? Oh, I have to get that back up again in my translator. So I'll jump to the next question from Brett, which is the Keshe Foundation going to release new reactors soon, meaning stronger type of reactors or systems?
We are ever developing. We are forever developing with different knowledge seekers in different ways. And depends what you call reactors. There's a lot of new knowledge. What you see in the front is about 5% of what is actually developed or is getting developed in the background. And one of the ways now is that we do not release our technologies in the hand of public, where we centralize them for all the public to be able to use us no matter where you are. The same with the food, the same with energy, the same with the space, the same with agriculture and the rest. Centralization to deliver is one of the advantages that we cannot lose it and we cannot get it abused.
Okay, we had a question from Ivani in Portuguese. It says, good morning, Mr. Keshe and everyone. Are we ready to raise the body pH? Well, he says to 7. We can do that?
Yes, we have done and we are maintaining. Our doctors are doing it for the past few weeks, yes. This is the trial which was announced last week. A lot of people look for 7+, especially if they have specific conditions. And after a while, yes, it can be done, and we developed this technology to do so.
Okay, a question from Claudia. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Your books number 4 through 9, will they be published for humanity?
When I get the chance, yes. When I get the chance, 4 and 5 are fully written. 6 is half done. 4 was completed before we leave Belgium in 2013. I gave the book to Dirk Lessons because he had the habit of reading in the book 3-4 times, coming up with understanding of the ideas and what needs to be drawn. And we went through it a couple of times, and as I knew we were going for exile out of Belgium, I went to him and I asked him for the book and all the files he ever had on Keshe Foundation, and 2 terabytes of hard disk, and I sat there with him and we wiped out book number 4 that will never come in public.
Okay, we have a further explanation from Amir. It says, how can the eddy current effect be increased in conductive metal with plasma, if it is possible?
If you understand what eddy current is, or what the way we understand it, in the plasma technology can be used, but we call eddy current magnetical fields, or what we call gravitational magnetic fields in the other pole. The reverse current flow. And we don't have we have a magnetic field flow. So in plasmatic eddy current, which is the flow of the plasma, reversal directional consideration, or what we call reference, is always measurable. One cannot exist without the other. And the same way, if you know how to implement it, you can change it into increasing the eddy currents in the metal state. which increases the flow of the current in the other direction itself. The more you pull from one end, the other side has to fill it up. Any other question?
Okay, we have a question from Saeed in the Q&A here, who asks, will we see extraterrestrial replicator type technology, the technology which creates matter from magravs, plasma energy in space? I heard that scalar energy of Nikola Tesla has infinite speed, just as the magravs energy. Can both of these energies be utilized together?
Watch this, please. Watch this, please. As I said, we are going through this process which has started. And as I said now to many knowledge seekers, and I repeat it till all of us understand and comprehend what is happening. With the new Keshe Foundation technologies, you have an option for a space or for motion or travel. You can build yourself the UFOs, the aircrafts, or whatever you like, and play toy game with it. This is one way of the availability of technology. We did this in 2008, the fundamental of it in Sharif Tehran University in public, by building the first space reactors, double core. Or those of you who are advanced in the knowledge and understand it, and especially in past few months and year, we're promoting it. Second method of the space travel or travel in any position or space is by creating a plasmatic field and put yourself in it and travel much faster than the, what do you call it, the UFOs. With the UFOs, you're still a part of the same process of creating the shielding and the rest of it, and dimensional motion and the rest. Where with the shielding, magnetic shielding or magnetic enveloping, you don't have such a limit. You travel at the moment from, let's say, New York to Tehran, 12 hours. With the UFO, you do it in 10 minutes. With the plasma field unit, you do it within 10 seconds. So which one do you want to take your time? Now you have option 2. Physicality within or fields within. You can put anything you like in that envelope. Any other question?
Yes, just look here. We've got Jalal with a hand up, but just before that, let's address the question from Geraldo, who asks, my question is, what do you think about transhumanism and artificial intelligence and its dangers for humanity?
Which part of it is dangerous? The biggest danger you have is that once this technology opens up, all these robotics and everything else will have a soul too. And with it, to have a soul, it means they will have emotion directly. You don't need to chip it. You don't need to develop a technology for it. You just create the condition of the soul and the soul of physicality, and your robot has emotion.
Mm-hmm. I'll just like to add to that, that if you're looking at our image of the background image for today's show, it was actually created by artificial intelligence. And we created it in the Keshe Plasma Reactor group yesterday as a group exercise. And we came up with a simple sentence and had the AI create an image from the sentence that we came up with. And the sentence was, this is for DALL-E. It's called DALL-E, the AI that's that creates images. And our one sentence was, create a plasma background field image for the Keshe Knowledge Seekers Workshop series. And that was it. That was a simple sentence. We plugged that in, and in a few seconds, it generated this image. And some other similar images as well. You get like 4 to select from. And this, amazingly, this was one of them. So it seemed, I don't know, kind of appropriate for the Knowledge Seekers Workshop. So I selected it and used that as the background image. Now, strangely, today's topic seems to be ascension. And if you look at the image, you almost see like a concept of ascension, you could say, with it looks like male and female characters and maybe different types of energies that they're engaging with and so on. So I don't know how the AI came up with this, but just from the simple sentence that we fed it as a group, this is what it generated. So it's quite powerful and amazing. And we're trying to find ways to use it, you know, for the benefit, rather than thinking of ways that it could be used for adverse ways for
And these
humanity.
artificial intelligence systems claim pattern rights.
Well, no, because they can't do that. Basically, it's the artist. You're considered an artist when you use the AI as a tool, as you would use other tools, a paintbrush or something else. We don't ask the paintbrush for copyright protection, but the artist needs that protection. So it is becoming a bit of a gray world, because some artists are using AI to duplicate other artists. For example, you can duplicate someone's voice that's a musician and put whatever words you want to their voice and show their image and everything else, even though they're not singing it. So it's going to become a tough, brave new world of copyright questions in that realm, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so perhaps we can go to Jalal here. Go ahead, Jalal.
Yes, thank you, Rick. Do you hear me? Okay.
Yes, yes. Hi,
Yes.
Jalal.
Hi, Mr. Keshe. Good day.
I was wondering where you are.
Oh, I am always in the background. But I did want to be the good who ask the questions.
Okay.
Okay. Yesterday in the private soul teaching, we came through an ancient teaching of yours. It's a
My God,
segment.
have I already become ancient?
Yeah, through this knowledge, what you are bringing, Mr. Keshe, every second this ancient to the other. We came across 15 minutes of your teaching, and we tried really to understand it, the manifestation of the physicality, and when it can be, in a way, disappear as a physical term. There is a process and there is a condition of it. And I think what you taught today about Jesus Christ, it's similar, exactly what we learned yesterday, that you can be transparent, you can be vanished from the scene if you go to the other section of your power. You don't need to be manifest in physicality. Only if you go to a balance field with the environment, then you will not have this what we call light, or what we call fractions. Is it in reality this is what real happened?
What you mean by that?
When they came to Jesus Christ, they didn't see him. He was vanished from the scene. So he chose not to interact with the environment.
I have tried to explain this in detail a few times. I've had battles. I remember in a meeting with people from Vatican years ago, this discussion was brought out. It's not invisible when now we understand how we transmute. Is not being balanced with the environment. You can actually not be there. Or if you choose to be there, but not to be seen. And the knowledge of it was available to Christ. It came available to him when he was on the cross. It wasn't a knowledge beforehand. If they put me on the cross, I know how to vanish. It was a given knowledge at the point in time. And that knowledge sits within the soul of the Creator. We always have an escape route. As teachers, we know we always have escape route. Is one of the what I call pre-contract requisites. That we choose the time, the place. And we don't sign with a pen, we sign with a pen of the soul. How do I get out of this? Is there. And he became aware of the knowledge he could do this on the cross. He managed to add up 1 and 1 to make 2. It wasn't something planned by Christ, I'm going to do this. He moved the soul that the physicality does not feel the pain on the cross. Emotional pain. He did not disappear, he did not. He was there all the time. He was aware of what was going on. Carry on.
In the same teaching, you brought up when some of the humans in accident time, they will come out of the accident, nothing happened to them. Absolutely nothing. No injuries, no nothing. And the other race, let's say you brought up like airplane crash, and you see someone come out of it well. What happened in that time? You explain it really very well by using his energy without knowing, because he was in a different condition.
I don't understand what you're trying to tell me, Jana.
I mean, if we use our emotion in the strength in the level towards the soul level. Now, the physicality.
I teach you something. If you understand it, you have cracked the code, as we say.
Okay, I am all ears. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You sit comfortably, close your eyes, open your ears, take all the wax out, put your leg up, get a cup of coffee, and listen very carefully.
Okay.
The secret to expansion of the soul is abolishing the emotion. Which emotion itself comes from attachment. If you understood the last two sentences, you have found the key to the secret of creation. If you abolish the emotion, you find a key to transmutation. You find a key even to create the strength, to be at the strength of the Creator, to be able to feel Him. The biggest barrier for man is his emotion. Carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Mr. Keshe, is the emotion of presence in a similar realm of emotion of what you're talking about, or is that different?
It's all the same. It's all the same. Our biggest problem is we hate, we love, we feel cold, we feel hot, we feel anger, we feel everything else. If you can overcome emotion, then there is nothing to keep the soul of physicality away from the soul. Any other question? Just 1 second, please.
Well, it was a big answer that should keep Jalal and many others going for a while.
Oh, I have another one. Just 1 minute. Just give me 2 minutes, please. I will come back.
Okay.
Hello, I'm back. Sorry about that. Somehow I got kicked out of my other Zoom. I don't know why.
Yeah, Jalal said he needs a couple of minutes and he'll come back. He had a second question, apparently. We have Carl says, now I'm confused. Is there not a better word than abolish? Emotions held as a steady state or held in balance?
What you mean?
Well, you said that we need to abolish emotion. And
It's
Doug
not to
had put
abolish.
it.
If if you are transparent between the soul of the physicality and the soul of the man, there is no emotion, there is no brain in between to create the emotion. But still feels their own strength, create emotion. This is a way it works. If I can put it this way, if you can get rid of the emotion of fear, you can jump up any height. So if you can understand this, then it's easy to operate. If you have a fear of emotion or fear of losing a love, and you do anything to hold it, you have no more fear. The best thing is, I've said that many times, but if I understood, you know, when you fall in love, you do the most stupid things, and then years later think, why could I, how did I do this thing? And you don't think about it, because being with a lover, giving a joy to see a smile on the face of a lover, or to create the emotion just to be near to, takes out all the fears to zero, because it doesn't exist. When it doesn't exist, you can do everything. I've done that many, many times when I was young. And you think, oh God, what would have happened if such a thing was there or happened? What would have happened? But you do it without fear, because you're so much in love with whatever you want to. I have faced this lack of fear, and they always tell me you're arrogant because of. No, because I have no fear. Fear, not having fear doesn't mean you're arrogant. It means you are confident. That is not a barrier, it's not a point. And I never negotiate from a point of weakness, because then that gives you a point of fear. But I always negotiate, even though the side thinks, oh, they're victorious, they got what they want and somebody else. As long as I get what I want, what I'm going into negotiation the way I want, does not matter how the other side feels. Because I know I calculated it. I came out of a negotiation very recently, and I told the knowledge seeker with me, let them feel they're victorious, but I got what I wanted and what the foundation to get. They're happy with what they have, and the foundation gets what it needs for its work. Does not matter how it might look, because we come out with everything intact. We wanted plus what we wanted on it. They don't know what my target is. They don't know what my expectation is, but they feel fulfilled the expectation. And it doesn't matter how you do it. You never go into any kind of negotiation with a fear of loss or being subordinate. The ways of thinking and doing, and even you come in, you look as you be inferior, but what you get over the time from it, it makes you superior. You get what you wanted. Superiority or achieving your emotional gain. So fear should not be the vocabulary of man. Considering, being thoughtful, what can be done, yeah, but fear in the way of fearing somebody else is higher, or you lose something you already lost if you had the fear. Is Jalal managed to get his 2 minutes?
Yes, I am back here, Mr. Keshe. Mr. Keshe, this conflict of really not understanding or not achieving what the soul teaching or doing, is it by the confirmation? That means
No, it's by default, being a
De-
human.
default. This is a confirmation also.
No, it's by default, being a human.
No, you love to be human, Mr. Keshe. You said it. You are here to enjoy this touch.
Oh, you don't know how much.
I know if I give you some kebab, but is it us who is really stubborn?
Not really. It's what we set our targets for and what we see. Doesn't matter how the other people look. Because if you set your target and you know you are right with it and what you do is the right conduct, even if it goes wrong, it turns out to be right. And when I used to be in boulder business, people who work around me for years, they always call me you're ruthless. I said, no, I'm not ruthless. I know what I want. And what I give you is what you can live with, is then I can work within the frame that I can, what you call, achieve what I want to achieve. I don't tell you something else and I don't do something else afterwards. What I do, I sign to. Even if it might harm me long run, I stick to. And this created a lot of enemies for me, but enemies who became later on friends. Many of them. When we used to go into negotiation of purchase, we used to be what we were not a normal trading structure. We were what we call stock cleaners. We used to buy stock. If you had 20 pieces or 2 million pieces, to us was that, can we make a profit on it? And we used to give a figure for what it is, what we think is. And they used to come back to negotiate. Can you go any higher? I said, this is what we gave and what we say. You don't need to accept it. Go in the market, see if you can get any better. Our valuation, our price is that. And sometimes they agreed, but they said, you ruined us, you take what you like. I said, you don't need to sell it to me. You don't need to do anything with our organization. Keep it, do it. And when you think you can accept it, it's beneficial to you, or sort something else where you come back to us. And then we'll talk, but this is our figure. And negotiation always used to be very tough, because when I put a figure down, I would not move. This was one of my worst habits, and I knew. Because I had a certain pattern of thinking. If the guy has made this, he's made his money, or he's made a mistake with all his expertise, if I buy his mistake, I have to buy it somehow that I make this mistake to a profitable mistake. If you sold an item for £100 or €100, and you sold so much of it and you're left with so much of it, you made a mistake of, or you made a profit, this is your left, or whatever reason is irrelevant to me. And with your expertise, what you created, what you developed, what you've done, you cannot sell your product or whatever it is with it. For me, as an unknown thingy, because tomorrow this is one thing for me, tomorrow will be something else, I have to make it something that people can buy. If you sold something as a manufacturer as 100, by the time factoring in the market, transportation and profitability and the rest of it, end up in the market, let's say for 400 or 500 pounds. For me to make this for anybody to buy, I have to buy that 10 pounds. that anybody on a high street can buy at £50, not at 500. They buy it because it was, the valuation bit. And I used to stick to my £10. The guy says it cost me 100, this, that. I said, this is for me workable. And used to stand my ground. That was it, because then I used to take the loss if the guy with the expertise can't sell it, me with no expertise, where do I stand? When we used to get that £10, we used to sell it, let's say, £25. The retailer doubled the price, which to them was very profitable, and they still were 10% of the market. Okay, I double and a half my profit. And I make a lot of money with it. Well, because when you buy 200,000, 50,000, whatever these figures adds up at those figures. And we build the business that way. We never reneged, we never said, oh, you gave us this, we agreed that. That was it. I should have done my homework. So I came out always with it, and that was it. And years later, the people came back to us. I said, why did you come back to me if you know you're going to lose? He said, because you do what you say, you give what you say, and that's it. Even if you lose or if whatever it is. And we need the money. I said, okay, so you need the money. This is my price. It's the same as 10 years ago when you did business with us. Nothing changes. Then it's not a headache to me. I'm straightforward. I put down what I think, and then it's my problem. And it's the same with life. You do things, you do the way you do it, and then you let it be other people's, for them to decide, not for you to do something wrong that make them to decide. Then you have no worries. There is no emotion involved. And that's how life should be. You do your work with it, and that's what you stick to it, unless the situation and condition changes. But you don't look at, if it changes, you don't look at it, or I don't look at it, oh my God, this is went wrong. I say, what's the reason for this going wrong that I have to learn from it? And why it went wrong for me, what is to come? And then when something else happened in the back of it, say, oh, this was the reason. This is why all things happened from the beginning. And this is the way you take the emotion out of everything. With the relationship, with business transaction, whatever. You look at it and you stay correct. Can I live with it? And is it the right thing to do? That's a criteria. Doesn't matter what you are, what you do, or the way we look at it, work of thing to be done. And even in a current situation, as all of you are aware, I took a decision to expand the Keshe Foundation in a very big way 2 years ago. We got involved with it. We got Keshe Foundation committed to it. Some of you helped us with it. And we came across the situation was a fraud. We told you a few months ago, and we looked at it as a huge loss. Affected us drastically, and maybe worse in the next few weeks. But in the process of waiting for this to happen, we concentrated on the others to be ready to go. And when this collapsed, everything was ready. And then, out of nowhere, but in a way, because we did a lot of work in the background for years with it, another situation which used the new situation came up and has become one of the biggest successes for Keshe Foundation ever. In a way, what went wrong financially to get done prepared us in the background ready for what has happened now and brought Keshe Foundation in totally different dimension. If we would have gone with what we invested, we're trying to invest and we lost, it could have taken us 25, 30 years, 50 years to get where we have achieved in the past few weeks. But maybe in concentrating to be ready, we are ready for what was really the souls decided to be ready for the Keshe Foundation to be where it should be. We are not aware of a lot of things, but we know a lot of things happen. And I always said when it came, there is a reason for this. We lost so much. We went through so much. Created some hardship for many of the knowledge seekers who supported us. But if I tell you the joy of what is about to come, what the Keshe Foundation has signed itself to it, everyone of you agree it was worth it. In the background, preparing us for everything to be there. And now, were we wrong to make that decision 2 years ago? These people coming to our path was in a way souls making us ready for what was coming up, shortening the cycle by maybe 50 years. But standing next to one of the most powerful nations in the world, most probably the most powerful nation in the world. As a collaborator, as a partner, as people who take the responsibility of everything else away from us and leaves us without research and development. I could not thank the souls in what has been done, and it doesn't matter whatever happened in the past 2 years. We didn't put a foot wrong, we kept to what we said, we did everything. We got some of you wanted to be there involved, but in a way from what we've done now, all the knowledge seekers within the next few months, whatever you support us, you should be able to get it back. Nobody has lost anything. But it won't be tomorrow. Take time. It's still has to be completely set out and done, and our management is working more or less day and night to bring it to that point. What was as a big loss, a lot of problem, has turned up to be the most beautiful thing ever happened to Keshe Foundation. So, what is what I tell you, you don't know what the souls have set up in the background for it to be prepared, to develop things ready for when the time comes, and the time came, it was there. In the coming time, from what we sign ourselves and what we know where we are, organizations like Microsoft, NASA, and many, many others will be like a child play into where the Keshe Foundation technology will be reached and achieved. Opening up the space in will touch every single man's life on this planet. Any other question?
Okay, thank you. Question in the Q&A from Jefferson, who says, hello, good morning, Mr. Keshe and everyone. If I may bring a subject a little different, but in the direction of the topic of today's teaching. I've been trying to understand the energy and type of manifestation of a soul called Ahura Mazda. In some Zoroastrian descriptions, he was considered to be a supreme god, and in other books as the Lord of Nothingness, and that he can interact with plasma fields from the sun and other stars, like maybe a reactor's core voidness. Could you enlighten us a bit more about it? As always, thank you very much.
As a Iranian brought up in the school of Zoroaster, Ahura Mazda means God, the creator, and nothing more and nothing less. The way in Christianity you call it God and everything else. Ahura Mazda means the beginning, the creator. And there is nothing above it. And signified in a different way on the entrance of the school and the temple of the Russians in Tehran. It's just another name for creator, but in the tradition and the meaning of it in Farsi, in the old traditional Farsi. Any other
Okay, from EDM in the Q&A, says, so when the soul elevates, does it merge with the cosmic rays? And these people that go on about the golden ratio, does it absorb more energy to release more, to grow like the 129 Tesla, like the Italian star formation?
Elevation comes by being enlightened, to understand more. That's all it means. To have more access to energy as knowledge, or more understanding of the world of creation. Elevation is not sitting in an elevator and going higher places. You got to realize, as I said many times, the universe is a sphere. So you cannot go beyond its boundary. And so the height and the highest is totally meaningless. You're equal distance from the center of it. It doesn't matter if you're on the North Pole or the South Pole, that's the highest you can go, because there's no more further to go. And that's all it is. And the soul gets more access to more knowledge. But the more knowledge you gain, the more you realize it's all connected to one, to the origin. Any other question? Shall we call it a day?
Yes, you're going on quite well here. There's only one question left in the Q&A. Perhaps we can briefly deal with that, which was, can you talk more about the emotion of knowledge that you said we need to learn in the 354th Knowledge Seekers Workshop? It's a question from Cristiano.
What do you mean? Explain.
Perhaps, I think it was in the chat earlier, it was mentioned about the emotion of presence and the emotion of knowledge. And I had asked also about, is the emotion of presence the same as the emotion that you mentioned that we should try to abolish or to, move beyond. So he's asking, I guess, to get more information about that emotion of knowledge that was mentioned back in that previous workshop.
I don't know, we have to go to the title of the workshop.
Okay, maybe we can let that go till a later date, let's say.
So we understand more what it is. Thank you very much for today. I hope we learned a little bit more, or we got enlightened a little bit more. And we're sure that you will understand more a little bit, maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, about the whole functionality of the work and what's the purpose of the teaching. And hopefully we'll be able to go to the next step. Don't forget about what we call the meeting we have later on this month regarding elevation of soul of the abused children. And the same, if you want to join any of the trials with the doctors regarding the pH and what do you call the dental situation with what they want to learn more on how it can be done. Thank you very much for today. And hopefully we meet next week.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. As we can see on the screen there, it mentions that workshop that Mr. Keshe talked about, elevating the soul of children. And Friday, May 26th, starting at 12 noon. And bookings can be done through the Keshe Foundation store at keshe.foundation/store. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe, for another wonderful workshop here that will keep us wondering probably for some time. And certainly will keep Jalal scratching his head. And thank you for all your answers to questions today. Thank you everyone for attending today's 486th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, May 18th, 2023. Our next public teaching workshop, just having a look at the calendar here, will be coming up on Tuesday, May 23rd, which is the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice. And that's with members of the Universal Council who will be presenting that workshop as per usual. And that starts at the 4 p.m. Central European Time, Central European Summer Time. Okay, I think that's all for our announcements for now. Again, thanks everyone for attending today. And we'll go out with the Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit music version for a little clapping and dancing to end our show here. Thank you, everyone, and see you in the next public teaching workshop.